I mean, I do not have any specific questions, but no, I didn't work in the Scrum. We worked in like what's this called as? I even forgot the names. Yeah, but I wanted better understanding of how the Scrum works. No, I know the roles and how it works,
Mhm.
but how the work is calculated and the poker method, how it is used. Is it really used practical way, like each developer giving the number?
Mhm. Yeah.
I wanted better understanding on that.
So poker estimation method, right? Uh,
Yeah.
we are not using it. I am sure other projects might not be using it as well, right?
Mhm.
So idea of Scrum is to have cross-functional teams where there are no developers, no QC, no BA, right? But
Mhm.
we all know that practically that does not happen in India at least, right? So
Mhm.
what all happens is we have a BA, we have a dev, and we have a QC, and they are clubbed together to form a Scrum team, right? So
Mhm.
where there are cross functional teams, right? So that's where people say that, okay, you tell your number, other person tells their number. If they're very close, let's go with that number. Otherwise, we'll go with the, we'll put up the arguments why we chose a particular number, and we'll decide one of it, right? So that's the poker estimation method, which is
Mhm.
kind of a relative estimation. But in reality, what happens is BA tells the dev and QC on what the requirements are. Then dev gives a number, and then project manager adds a multiplier on top of it, right? So what
Mhm.
we say is, let's say dev has said two story points. Then project
Mhm.
manager will be like, okay, if this is two story points, then let me apply a factor of 1.5 or something, and let's make it 3, so that will include dev and QC efforts as well, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that's a general trend that I have seen people following. Even in waterfalls, the same thing used to happen. People used to take estimates from developers, and then say that, okay, if my development efforts are these much, my BA efforts will be 40% of it, my QC efforts will be 50% of it. Yeah, and they'll sum up the numbers, and they'll figure out the total estimates, which
Mhm.
I think is not a right way personally. It's all managers are following it, but personally I feel that they should not do this. They should ask BA for the analysis estimates. They should ask QC for their testing efforts, because sometimes what happens is that developer may not need to do anything, because the product is giving out the functionality out of the box, but
Mhm.
QC will need to test out the entire out of the box functionality. So QC efforts are much more, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes the BA has to go into multiple discussions and try to figure out what the solution is, and BA puts in lot of effort, and then the end result is a simple change. So I have seen certain requirements wherein I have spent hours and hours and hours and weeks and weeks and weeks to figure out and analyze the requirement, and at the end of it, the result was just one grid, and this grid developer was like, okay, I'll create this grid in 3 days. Yeah, so
Mhm. Mhm.
the total effort was estimated to be 5 days, but I have already spent 10 days on just to get the requirements, right? But all that effort is lost. No one counts for it. Yeah.
Mhm.
But again, if I think from project manager's perspective, what happens is, if I go to BA, give me the estimates, BA will take their own sweet time. If I go to QC, give me the estimates, QC will take their own sweet time, right?
Mhm.
It's difficult for me to, get the accurate estimates. And at the end of it, it's estimate only, right? You will never
Mhm.
know what my actual number will be. So
Mhm.
uh, so people try to avoid all those bottlenecks and all those extra efforts, and go into those estimation kind of things. So most of the time they'll be like, do a t-shirt sizing, is it small, large, or XL?
Mhm.
So that's how we have seen things working out. Planning poker, I have not seen any team following it so far. None of
Mhm.
none of my experiences. I have seen people doing the planning poker estimation.
Okay. You mentioned T-shirt. Is it also a method of doing it?
Yep, t-shirt sizing, right? So
Oh,
if a requirement has come to you, you can say that it is extra small, small, medium,
oh,
large, extra large, double XL. So
okay.
it this t-shirt sizing is usually done at epic level, right?
Oh,
So
okay.
when a requirement comes to you, you usually do not have the nitty-gritties or estimates or you do not have the how many requirements will be there, what kind of requirements will be there, and so for such things. So that time you usually do a t-shirt sizing. Okay, this is a large requirement, right? So let me uh, book for roughly 3 months or 5 months, like that.
Okay.
But these are very high level estimates, and of course, then once you get more clarity on the requirements, once you have your user stories or your BRDs in, that time you do requirement level estimation.
Okay.
So Shipra, I have a quick question here, right?
Mhm.
So if we practice Scrum in theory, right? BA is not a Scrum Master; he would fall under the developer, isn't it, Shipra?
Yep.
So if that's the case, then ideally, when a team goes into the planning meeting, right, they need to be aware of the requirement in and out, and only then they will be in a position to like start estimating, and then they will consider that as like sorry, they will consider it for development in that particular sprint. But
Mhm.
if my understanding is correct, right, the role of the BA itself is to clear out all the impediments, get a thorough understanding of all the requirements, and then document everything, maybe on the ADO board or somewhere, right? And then explain this. And then that there is also, again, in theory, there is this backlog refinement that also happens in parallel in the middle of the scrum, right? Middle of the sprint. So by the time the entire team goes into the planning meeting, right, all the developers will have some fair knowledge around what the ask is and what they need to develop, isn't it, Shipra? So if that's the case, why would we need a BA to be present as part of the like as a developer, and why should he be there in the in any planning meeting?
Uh, yeah. So the BA does need to be there in the planning meeting. The reason why is because BA can clarify the doubts which will arise during the planning, right? So let's
Okay.
say I have 10 stories, and some of these stories are 3 story points, some of these stories are 5 story points, some are eight, some are 13, and so on and so forth, right? So
Right.
developer says, and all these are priority one stories, right? That's why they are into my sprint backlog. If they are priority two or three, they will remain in my product backlog, right? So
Correct.
now I have a list of 10 stories or 20 stories, all are priority one,
Okay.
all have different estimates, right? And now we need to decide which stories will make into the sprint and which of the stories we need to move out,
Okay.
right? So
Right.
one important aspect that comes into picture at this moment is dependencies. So
Right.
if I have two stories, and these the second story is dependent on the first story, then
Right.
I say that I definitely need first in this sprint, and maybe second we can move to second sprint if we have too much work. So let's
Okay.
say my total story points are 100 and my velocity is 50, so I can only take 50 story points out of these 100, right? So
Right.
I need to move out certain number of stories. So as a BA, I can take a call. Okay, let's go with first story and let's move out second story.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's why BA's role is important to tell the dependencies, right? Another thing is BA can highlight uh, the business priorities as well. So, for example, from business perspective, uh,
Okay.
my first feature is important and my second feature is important. I need to do both,
Okay.
right?
Right.
So, to take an example of insurance, then I have a new business and I have a renewal stories. So, new
Okay.
business will come first, logically, right?
Right.
You work on renewal till you have the new business. Now, assuming new business is also in place, and I have some new business stories and I have some renewal stories. So, as a BA, I can provide an input that renewal is not going to happen for another year, right? So
Makes
first
sense.
of all, my new business contracts will be written in the system, right? And after
Right.
a renewal will come in. So let's spark renewal. Let's focus on new business and let's try to get the new business done first. Some may have different view. Some can say that okay, let me do MVP of new business and let me do MVP of renewal, right? But
Right.
that's a call that a BA is in a better position to take than developers or testers or even Scrum Master, right? So aligning the stories to the sprint goal, deciding on the business priorities. Sometimes a dev may say that this is a small thing. This is just a label change. Why do you need it? Let's push it back. So as a BA, you think that it is important for the user because you are having conversations with your clients, right? You know what is important for the client. The developer
Right.
doesn't know that. So you have to, you have to argue for that. No, I want this is such a small change, but still, I need to include this in, what the challenge is. So why can't you do it? So these kind of discussions, BA needs to be there, right?
Makes sense, Shipra.
So it's not like I'll start from the top and I'll say, 10 plus 2 plus 5 plus 8 plus 50 is there. And now, rest everything moves to next sprint or to back to the product backlog. No, things can't work that way, right? So
Right.
no one can decide better or no one can provide inputs better than Scrum Master. But then, I'll if I I would have been asking this question, I will be like, why we need developer in the Scrum in the sprint planning? Because developer has done his work, right? He has given the story points already.
Right.
So why we need a developer? We need a BA for sure, but why we need a developer in a sprint planning? But yes, we need a developer as well because a developer can suggest the technical challenges, right? So some story we may be thinking that yes, we can do it, but the developer may say that because some POC is required or because some design decisions are required, they are not in a position to pick up a particular story. So that story needs to move out.
Got it, Shipra.
Those kind of inputs we cannot provide. So those kind of inputs only developer can provide.
I understand. Yeah, I completely understand, Shipra. Like everybody has got one role to play on the
Yeah.
plan. Yeah.
Mhm.